In September 2018, the lifeless body of 17-year-old Sarah Thompson was found in the woods adjacent to her family's residence. The horrific discovery sent shockwaves throughout the community, causing residents to barricade themselves indoors and murmur about the potential presence of a killer among them. Detective Michael Carter, an experienced investigator with the Hartford Police Department, was assigned to lead the case. With his sharp intuition and steadfast commitment, Carter immersed himself in the complex web of deception surrounding Sarah's murder. Little did he know that this investigation would challenge his perceptions and compel him to confront the most sinister facets of human nature. As the inquiry progressed, suspicion initially gravitated towards Sarah's stepmother, Amanda Wilson. The troubled dynamics between the two were well known among their neighbors, and Amanda's apparent jealousy of her stepdaughter seemed to offer a plausible motive. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly clear-cut case lay a convoluted narrative of betrayal, hidden truths, and dire repercussions. Central to this tragedy was Robert Wilson, Sarah's stepfather, a well-respected businessman and a prominent figure in the community. While Robert presented himself as the grieving father figure, supporting his wife through their shared sorrow, Detective Carter would soon uncover that Robert's meticulously crafted facade masked a labyrinth of deceit that would ultimately lead to his downfall. This is the account of a murder that shattered a community. A family tested a detective's instincts, unveiling the tragic repercussions of unchecked desire and betrayal. This narrative serves as a stark reminder that the most perilous predators can often be found in our midst, masquerading as ordinary individuals within our neighborhoods. Sarah Thompson was a vibrant and promising young woman whose life was abruptly ended just weeks before her 18th birthday. Born in 2001 to single mother Amanda Thompson, Sarah was a bright and inquisitive child, always eager to learn and discover the world around her. From a young age, she exhibited a passion for art and literature, with her teachers frequently commending her creativity and perceptive writing, recognizing her as a student of exceptional potential. Her artwork decorated the halls of her high school, and she had recently begun to delve into photography, capturing the beauty of the forest behind her home, the very place that would ultimately become the site of her tragic demise. Despite her academic and artistic accomplishments, Sarah's family life was far from idyllic. At the age of 12, her mother married Robert Wilson, a successful local businessman. While Sarah initially embraced the stability that Robert introduced, the relationship between stepfather and stepdaughter grew increasingly strained as she entered her teenage years. Her friends and classmates described her as compassionate yet fiercely independent, with a close-knit group of friends. Sarah was known for her courage in standing up against bullying, and her best friend, Emily Chun, fondly remembered Sarah's aspiration to study journalism at New York University. Sarah aspired to be an investigative journalist and uncovered truths hidden beneath the surface. Sarah's relationship with her mother Amanda had always been complex as an only child. Sarah had been the center of Amanda's world for years, but Robert's arrival in their lives created a shift in the dynamic. Sarah often felt that her mother prioritized her new marriage over their maternal filial bond, which led to frequent arguments and emotional estrangement in the months leading up to her death. Those close to Sarah noticed a change in her behavior. She became more withdrawn and spent more time alone in her room or wandering the woods with her camera. Her art took on darker themes, and her normally meticulous schoolwork began to fade. Emily remembers that Sarah seemed distracted and preoccupied, but when pressed, she would brush off her concerns with a forced smile and a change of subject. What no one knew at the time was that Sarah had stumbled upon a secret that would prove fatal in her search for the truth, and driven by her natural curiosity, she had discovered something someone was willing to kill to keep hidden. Sarah Thompson's young life, full of promise and potential, was snuffed out as she stood on the threshold of adulthood, leaving behind a community in mourning and a mystery that would shake Millbrook to its foundations. Robert Wilson, 45 at the time of Sarah's murder, presented himself as the epitome of suburban success, a charismatic and respected financial advisor. Robert had built a thriving business in Hartford where he managed the wealth of some of the city's wealthiest. Residents admired his polished appearance and self-assured demeanor, which positioned him as a natural leader within the community. He was actively involved in the local chamber of commerce and served as a youth soccer coach. Born and raised in a working-class family in Boston, Robert ascended the social hierarchy through a blend of charm, intelligence, and relentless ambition. He met Amanda Thompson at a charity gala in 2012, and their whirlwind romance led to marriage just 8 months later. To the outside world, Robert seemed to embody the ideal husband and stepfather, providing both stability and financial security for Amanda and her daughter, Sarah. However, beneath the facade of success and respectability, Robert concealed dark secrets and unfulfilled aspirations. His marriage to Amanda quickly lost its initial spark, and he found himself enticed by the thrill of an extramarital affair. For the past year, Robert had been engaged in a passionate relationship with Elena Gonzalez, the wife of his next-door neighbor and close friend, David. This relationship with Elena transcended mere physical attraction. He felt genuinely alive in her company, experiencing a connection he believed he had never shared with Amanda. The two lovers met in secret, seizing moments of intimacy while their wives were occupied with work or errands. Robert became skilled at deception and manipulation to sustain his double life. As Sarah entered her teenage years, Robert grew increasingly uneasy in her presence, fearing that her perceptive nature and keen attention to detail might expose his infidelity. Consequently, he began to avoid spending time alone with his stepdaughter, crafting excuses to evade such situations. Dinners and family gatherings often saw friends and colleagues describing Robert as charming and generous, always ready to share a joke or offer assistance. David Gonzalez, oblivious to Robert's deceit, frequently lauded him as the ideal neighbor and friend one could wish for. Robert's clients placed their trust in him completely, drawn in by his solid guarantees and impressive history of success. However, those closest to Robert began to perceive a subtle tension beneath the surface. His assistant at the financial firm noted a growing irritability and distractibility in the months preceding Sarah's death. Mark Stevens, an old college friend, remarked that Robert appeared to be living on edge, as if he were perpetually glancing over his shoulder. Did anyone suspect that behind Robert Wilson's polished exterior lay a man capable of unspeakable deeds, driven by a desperate need to safeguard his secrets and maintain his lifestyle at any cost? The grim discovery took place on the morning of September 15, 2018, when a jogger stumbled upon Sarah Thompson's body, partially concealed beneath a heap of leaves and branches in the woods behind the Wilson home. A crude effort at hiding the horrific crime. Detective Michael Carter arrived at the scene within the hour, his trained eye capturing every detail. Sarah's body bore the marks of a violent struggle, with bruises on her arms and face, as well as defensive wounds on her hands, indicating her fierce fight for survival. The cause of death was immediately evident, a jagged gash to the throat, likely inflicted with a saw blade, as the forensic team began their investigation. Carter meticulously searched the area for evidence and observed several significant details. Notably, Sarah's camera, which her friend mentioned she always took on her woodland excursions, was absent. The presence of drag marks and disturbed vegetation indicated that the body had likely been relocated from the original site of the attack, possibly to obscure it and prevent immediate discovery. Most importantly, there were no indications of sexual assault, leading Carter to believe that the motive behind the murder was personal rather than opportunistic. The ferocity of the attack suggested a crime of passion, committed by someone who knew Sarah and was driven by a moment of intense rage. As news of the murder circulated, the once tranquil Millburg community was engulfed in fear and suspicion. Neighbors who previously left their doors unlocked began to secure their homes, while parents restricted their children's outdoor activities, transforming the woods from a playground into a no-go zone, cordoned off with yellow police tape. Detective Michael Carter, a seasoned veteran of the Hartford Police Department with 2 decades of experience, assumed control of the investigation with a resolute demeanor. Renowned for his attention to detail and remarkable ability to identify overlooked connections, Carter had successfully resolved some of the department's most challenging cases. Standing in the Wilson family's living room, gazing at the photographs displayed on the mantel, he recognized that this case would challenge him like never before. The initial 48 hours of the investigation were filled with frenetic activity as Carter and his team conducted preliminary interviews with family, friends, and neighbors, while also reviewing Sarah's school records and social media presence. Accounts were meticulously examined, and her activities in the days preceding her death were carefully reconstructed. Robert Wilson, appearing visibly shocked, provided a comprehensive account of his location on the night of the murder. He asserted that he had been working late in his office, a claim supported by security footage and the testimony of his assistant. Amanda Wilson, still clearly distressed, struggled to maintain her composure during cross-examination. She acknowledged having an argument with Sarah the night before her disappearance but maintained that such disputes were typical of a mother-daughter relationship. As Carter probed further, a troubling picture of a household fraught with tension began to emerge. Neighbors reported frequent loud arguments between Sarah and her mother, with their voices often echoing across the well-kept lawn. Sarah's best friend, Emily Chun, disclosed that Sarah had been increasingly discontented at home, feeling trapped and misunderstood. The initial findings from the forensic team raised more questions than they answered. Trace evidence found on Sarah's clothing did not correspond with samples collected from either Robert or Amanda. The murder weapon, likely a hunting knife or a similar serrated blade, remained elusive despite an exhaustive search of the Wilson property and its surroundings. A significant development occurred when Carter interviewed Elena Gonzalez, the Wilsons' next-door neighbor. Elena, appearing anxious during the questioning, revealed that she had witnessed Sarah arguing with Amanda in their driveway the day before her disappearance. More intriguingly, Elena inadvertently mentioned that Amanda had always seemed envious of her daughter's youth. The combination of this information, along with the chaotic family environment and Amanda's dubious alibi for the night of the murder, led Detective Carter to direct his investigation towards Sarah's mother. He speculated that years of pent-up resentment had culminated in a confrontation that turned fatal. As the investigation entered its second week, Carter grew increasingly confident that they were pursuing the correct lead. He secured a warrant to examine Amanda's personal belongings and communications, hoping to uncover vital evidence that would resolve the case. However, a persistent doubt lingered in Carter's mind. Robert Wilson's composed demeanor and seemingly flawless alibi appeared too perfect, too convenient. Unbeknownst to Carter, his instincts were guiding him toward a far more sinister reality than he had anticipated. As the investigation unfolded, all indications pointed to Amanda Wilson as the primary suspect in her daughter's murder. Motivated by the evidence at hand, Detective Carter began to construct a case against the 42-year-old housewife with a troubled history. His team discovered a series of heated text message exchanges between Amanda and Sarah in the weeks preceding the murder. In one particularly intense argument, Amanda accused Sarah of attempting to undermine her marriage, to which Sarah retorted by labeling her mother a pathetic, jealous old woman. These digital traces appeared to corroborate the theory of a family dynamic that had reached a breaking point. Amanda's behavior following Sarah's death further intensified suspicions. Although she initially displayed distress, she soon became defensive and evasive during the questioning. The alibi provided by Amanda for the night of the murder was tenuous at best. She claimed to have been home alone, watching television, with no one available to verify her account. A search of the Wilson residence uncovered a diary concealed within Amanda's bedside table, containing entries that expressed her escalating resentment towards Sarah, lamenting the girl's beauty and the attention she garnered from Robert. One particularly chilling entry stated, "Sometimes I wish she would disappear. Our lives would be so much better without her constant presence and her judging eyes." The case against Amanda appeared to gain traction when a neighbor reported seeing her return home in the early hours of the morning on the day Sarah's body was found. Amanda offered no explanation for this late-night outing, asserting instead that she must have been sleepwalking, a condition she had never previously disclosed. As the circumstantial evidence continued to accumulate, Detective Carter faced mounting pressure from both his superiors and the media to proceed with an arrest. The community, gripped by fear, clamored for justice for Sarah. Amanda Wilson, once viewed with sympathy, became the focal point of public animosity and suspicion. Despite his growing conviction of Amanda's guilt, Carter could not dismiss a lingering doubt. Her desperation and fear during the interrogation seemed inconsistent with the profile of a calculated murderer. Nevertheless, armed with evidence, he prepared to make an arrest on a rainy Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after Sarah's body was discovered. As Amanda Wilson was led from her home in handcuffs, she vehemently protested her innocence, her cries resonating through the shocked community. Robert Wilson observed from the doorway, his expression inscrutable, as his wife was forcefully placed into the back of a patrol vehicle. Unbeknownst to Carter, in his fervor for justice, he had fallen victim to a meticulously crafted deception, allowing the true perpetrator to evade capture. The case against Amanda Wilson appeared solid. However, Detective Michael Carter sensed an underlying issue. It was a minor, easily dismissed detail that ultimately guided him toward the truth. While examining security footage from establishments near the Wilson residence, Carter noted that Robert's vehicle had departed from his office parking lot significantly earlier than he had reported on the night of the homicide. Intrigued by this inconsistency, Carter resolved to investigate Robert Wilson's life more thoroughly. He re-interviewed Robert's colleagues and clients, focusing intently on the man's activities and connections. During a discussion with Robert's assistant, Carter uncovered a vital piece of information. Robert had been making frequent, unexplained visits to a cafeteria across town, always during his lunch break. Surveillance of the cafeteria led to a shocking revelation: Robert was regularly meeting with Elena Gonzalez, the wife of his neighbor. Their interactions suggested a level of intimacy that surpassed mere neighborly friendship. Armed with this new evidence, Carter approached Elena for a follow-up interview. Confronted with the proof of the affair, Elena succumbed to her emotions, disclosing the depth of her relationship with Robert, which had persisted for over a year. Elena, burdened by guilt, confessed to having lied in her previous statement to shield Robert. The affair she disclosed shed new light on Robert's alibi for the night of the murder, as Elena confirmed their meeting that evening, directly contradicting Robert's assertion that he was working late. This revelation disrupted Robert's meticulously crafted timeline. As Detective Carter investigated further into the relationship between Robert and Elena, he uncovered a complex web of deceit and clandestine encounters. Financial records indicated that Robert had recently sought to transfer substantial amounts of money overseas, while email correspondence suggested plans for a new life together, away from their respective spouses and obligations. The detective was confronted with a troubling question: could Robert Wilson, the grieving stepfather, truly be Sarah's murderer? Although the motive remained unclear, the flaws in Robert's seemingly perfect image were becoming increasingly apparent. Carter recognized that his intense focus on Amanda had nearly caused him to overlook the unfolding narrative right before him. A pivotal moment in the investigation emerged from an unexpected source. Emily Chun, Sarah's best friend, approached Detective Carter with a small leather-bound book, Sarah's personal diary. Emily, overwhelmed with guilt, admitted that she had concealed the diary, fearing it might tarnish Sarah's memory. However, as suspicion shifted towards Amanda, Emily understood that revealing the truth was more crucial than safeguarding her friend's secrets. Carter spent a restless night poring over Sarah's intimate reflections, which painted a vivid portrait of a young woman grappling with her circumstances. A troubling discovery emerged from entries several months old, in which Sarah expressed her escalating suspicion that her stepfather was engaged in an extramarital affair. She detailed secretive text messages, discreet phone calls, and Robert's increasingly erratic behavior. The most incriminating entry was written just 3 days prior to Sarah's murder, in shaky handwriting, recounting an incident where she followed Robert one night and witnessed him in an embrace with Elena Gonzalez. Sarah articulated her feelings of disgust and betrayal, revealing her internal conflict about whether to confront Robert or inform her mother. This revelation provided a crucial piece of the puzzle. Sarah had uncovered Robert's affair, which presented a clear motive for murder. Robert, a man who had meticulously crafted his life to maintain appearances, faced the imminent threat of losing everything: his marriage, reputation, and financial stability. Armed with this newfound information, Detective Carter revisited the forensic evidence, ordering a more comprehensive analysis of Sarah's clothing to identify any overlooked traces. The results were significant. Fibers discovered on Sarah's jacket corresponded to a rare fabric blend used in Robert's expensive suits. Furthermore, a re-examination of Sarah's phone records revealed a series of brief calls to Robert's office number on the day she vanished, indicating that she may have been attempting to confront her stepfather or arrange a meeting. Additionally, Carter uncovered that Robert had purchased a hunting knife from a local sporting goods store just a week before the murder. This knife, which had since gone missing from the Wilson residence, matched the type of weapon believed to have been used in the crime. As the pieces of the puzzle began to align, Carter came to a stark realization regarding the depth of Robert's deceit. Not only had Robert manipulated his family and the community, but he had also expertly redirected the entire investigation towards Amanda. The detective experienced a complex blend of admiration for Robert's cleverness and revulsion for his ruthless actions. With mounting evidence implicating Robert Wilson as the murderer, Carter understood the urgency of the situation. The man who had once been viewed as a respected member of the community was now unmasking himself as a calculating killer, willing to sacrifice his stepdaughter to safeguard his secrets. Detective Carter resolved to confront Robert Wilson in his office, away from the watchful eyes of neighbors and the media that had gathered outside the Wilson residence. Upon entering Robert's upscale financial advisory firm with her partner, they discovered him engaged in a client meeting, exuding an air of professional calm. In a voice barely above a whisper, Robert began to recount his story. He spoke of Sarah confronting him in the woods, threatening to expose his affair to Amanda and Elena's husband. He described the panic that seized him, the dread of losing everything he had built. With tears welling in his eyes, Robert recounted how he had acted in a moment of despair, silencing Sarah forever. His confession flowed forth, a deluge of guilt and self-recrimination, as he detailed his meticulous plan to frame Amanda, exploiting the existing tensions between stepmother and stepdaughter. As Carter placed him under arrest, Robert's demeanor shifted dramatically. The only words uttered were a desperate plea: "Do not inform Elena, please keep her unaware of my actions." The once respected man was escorted from his office in handcuffs, his life disintegrating as the reality of his deeds was finally exposed. Following 2 weeks of trial and mere hours of deliberation, the jury delivered a guilty verdict on all charges, including first-degree murder.